Welcome, everybody. This is the Fanatic podcast. My name is Peter Lucas, and it's draft season. Welcome to the offseason for the 49ers and for everybody in the league now. We're going to have some free agent updates today. We're going to talk about, the 49ers free agents as well as some other free agent maybe targets for the 49ers. Also some trades that I think that we're looking towards as far as Jimmy goes, and some things that we can maybe expect to happen pretty soon, because they said they want to get it done before March 16th. So, and then also we're going to talk about obviously where Jimmy's going, but like the compensation that we may be getting back from him, and then also like the Trey storyline, and the is he ready, is he not ready, and also the 49ers had a new promotion today for their and on their coaching staff. So we're going to talk about that a little bit today too. But what I really want to start with today is, what is Trey ready? And I see this all over Twitter. I see it all over the Facebook groups. Is Trey ready? That question keeps getting asked, and does it matter? Does it really matter? I mean, it is what it is at this point. They said they're going to try and get Jimmy traded by March 16th. He's gone. So does it matter if he's ready or not? Why are we even conversating about it? The truth of the matter is, he's here. It's time. But if you're asking me, he absolutely is ready. I feel like we've seen enough. We saw enough in the preseason. I think we've seen enough in the games, that the 2 games that he played in the regular season, that this kid, of course, he's going to take his lumps. He's a rookie, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't. He's going to have to learn on the job at some point, and he's going to make some mistakes. We should all be ready for that. But the reality is this kid is supremely talented. His coaching staff says that he's supremely intelligent. He picked up that he's got the playbook down. There's nothing else but to just get back there and start doing the job. And it's really going to come down to what Kyle draws up for him, how Kyle decides to use him. And I really am a believer that we're going to see more of what we saw against the Texans in the second half with Trey. I think that it's going to be more of, he's going to pretty much treat him like Jimmy, and not do a whole bunch of designed runs, because I think we saw that while Trey is not slow by any means, he's not a Lamar Jackson. He's not one of these burners at quarterback. You're not going to do a bunch of designed runs for him. You might do it occasionally just to keep the defense off guard, but for the most part, I don't plan on them doing a bunch of QB power and that kind of stuff. That really limits what Trey is capable of. I think that much has been made about his accuracy, and he has a wobble in his ball. All that matters is the ball gets there, and it gets there on time, and it gets there where it's supposed to get there. I think that he's going to be working with John Beck all this offseason. He's going to be working with the coaching staff. Just know, all the talk about, is he ready? The guy has a whole offseason to get ready, a whole training camp to get ready, and 3 games in the preseason to get ready. Don't worry about, is he going to be ready, 49er fans. This guy is going to be, I think this guy has a work ethic and the poise and the temperament to really, I think we're going to see year one. I'm willing to stake my claim to it now. I think that he is going to be good. I'm pretty positive of it. I think we can trust that Kyle is going to scheme him wide receivers open, and I think this kid has shown that he can learn on the fly, and that he can make. And when he makes mistakes, he corrects them. When he sees something in when he misses something in coverage, the next time he sees it, he's not going to miss it. So he's going to make mistakes like every quarterback. Just know that this kid is going. I just feel he's going to be good. I really feel he's going to be good, and I think we should all be excited about it. It's not. It's we haven't had a supremely talented quarterback since Colin, and this is the thing. Colin had his own issues that I think. Well, I think that most of us can admit that he had, but um, but I think this kid has a way better chance than any quarterback that we've had since Steve Young to be to be here for the next 10 to 15 years and to really stake a claim to being a franchise quarterback or the 49ers and not just be here for a little 4 5 year run. I think this kid's here for the long haul. And barring serious injury, I expect to be talking about this guy for the next, like I said, the next 10, 15 years. Um, but so let me alleviate all of the nerves around Trey. He's gonna be fine. He's gonna be fine, and the running game's gonna be fine. I think that this team is going to be fine. The more I think about what happened last season, and we're all worried about the salary cap right now, and fitting guys under the cap like DJ Jones and Laken Tomlinson, and we're all worried about these things. And we were worried about these things last season, if everybody remembers correctly. But what happened? They restructured. They restructured a bunch of guys, opened up a bunch of cap space. Jimmy's going to be gone. That's going to open up a whole bunch of cap space. Don't worry. Don't worry. We can find I think I've found a few guys in the free agent market that we may be able to get for deals, which if I found it, the Niners know about it already. And then also they've got the draft. I just think that the more I looked at what is available in this offseason, the more I'm looking at it, the more I feel like the 49ers are really poised to do something major this next season. And when I say something major, I'm saying that they have a chance to go as far as anyone in the playoffs. They're going to get to the playoffs. I'm willing to stake my claim to it now. As long as Trey doesn't get hurt, I feel like they are going to make the playoffs. And a lot of you might be thinking that I'm speaking too soon, but the reality is I don't agree. I don't agree. He is going like I think Trey is gonna do what it takes to get for us to get there. And all the Jimmy stands and all that kind of stuff, it doesn't matter anymore. You're Niner fans. He's gone. Now it's time to support Trey. Okay? So the next thing I'm going to talk about is the free agent. I have like a few updates and just talking about like Laken Tomlinson and he's one of the major free agents that we have going, and he's rumored to go to Miami uh, because I think Miami's going to open the checkbook for him. It's entirely possible, guys. We may lose Laken Tomlinson, and it's not. I just don't think it may be as bad as everybody thinks it could be, because the more I was looking at what's available in the on free agency and in the draft, I think, and the guys that we already have on the roster, I think that we might be okay. I don't think that there's a reason to panic. Um, Even if we lose Lakin, there's quite a few guys out there that are used to running zone concepts that could replace Lakin. They may not do as well as Lakin. They might, but if you're going off of PFF grades, they're in the realm of what Lakin was. So like don't be afraid of what's going to happen with Laken Tomlinson. Like I think that we probably don't end up keeping him because I think Miami's going to take him. And if it's not Miami, it's going to be somebody else. Somebody is going to open the checkbook up for that guy because of his availability. The guy doesn't get hurt. Guy doesn't get hurt. He's solid. He's been solid for years now. And he is what he is. He's used to running. There's a lot of teams running these zone concepts now in the running game and just in general. and he's going to be a valued commodity. So do not be surprised if we do not have Lakin Tomlinson by the end of this offseason. But I'm going to go on record as saying that I don't think it's an end all be all. I don't think it's a deal breaker that if we don't end up with Lakin. I just see a lot, and I get it. I know a lot of you out there are saying this isn't Madden. You can't just plug and play just anybody. Calm down. There's a lot of guys running the same zone concepts. It's just different verbiage, and I feel like the culture of this locker room can welcome in some new blood, and we have some guys on the roster that might be able to step into that role. But even if they don't, I think that this roster has shown that they could bring in people last season and integrate them into the culture, and it's not a deal breaker. So just calm down. There's no fire. I think that they're actually set up pretty well. The more I look into it, and but another guy that we're going to talk about is DJ Jones. DJ Jones is another guy that he's been solid. He's had some injury issues in the past, but he didn't miss any time this last season, which was huge, and which is why he's probably going to get paid. And this is a guy that I think they might bring back if he allows them bring him back at that $6 to $7 million range. Because the more I looked into it about guys that are like the other defensive tackles that are free agencies, they're projected to make anywhere between 12 that 7 to 12 million range. And while DJ Jones is a really good player, you have to take into account what he had all around him on the defensive line, and having Eric Armstead play next to him, having Bosa on the same line. Don't think teams haven't taken that into account. And so I think that we may be able to get him in for like 7, 8 mil a year. And if we don't, it's not a big deal. It's We might think that it's a big deal because of how well he played last season, but there's some other guys that I'm looking at and one in particular that I'm looking at, and I'll get into it later. That I just feel could replace him. Not that I want to replace him. I don't want to replace. I would love to keep DJ Jones. I'd love to keep Lakin Tomlinson. But the reality of the matter is that we're not going to be able to keep everybody. It's just not going to happen. So the sooner that everybody gets used to the thought process that we're going to lose guys. We have too many good players on this team. This team is loaded full of good players, and there's no possible way that you're going to be able to keep all of them. You got a lot of free agents, but there's also a lot of free agents on other teams that, remember, who was Jordan Willis before he got on the 49ers? Who was Amenahu? Who was Ebicom? Who was any of the guys on the defensive line? Arden Keys, the Maurice Hurst, all of them. Who were they? They were considered busts or not so good players on other teams. And then they get on the 49ers with Chris Kasurik and with this coaching staff, and they turn them into world beaters. So just take into account that we have a good coaching staff. We can also bring in what necessarily is another team's trash might be our treasure. Okay, so just take that into account. Don't go crazy when we lose Lakin, when we possibly lose DJ Jones. Jason Verrett is another one that I'm kind of looking at, and I actually think that they do bring him back at like the vet minimum. And people might be out there like, vet minimum. Somebody's gonna. No, I don't think anybody's gonna pay him at this point. He's coming off of another ACL, and it's just not going to happen. Like, unfortunately, I hate to say it about Verrett because the guy is so talented, and it's such a sad story. But the reality of the way that that these front offices are working, there's no way that they're going to pay him. So I think that it might be a gift in disguise. Not that he got hurt, but that he may be coming back to us on the vet on a prove it deal. and the Niners may just go ahead and go a little bit above the minimum just out of some goodwill towards Verrett. So, but I think that they're going to have enough space to be able to do that. So, like I said, don't get discouraged. We got a lot of stuff. We got a lot of stuff, a lot of guys to sign, and that. But we have a great core of players. We have great leaders on this squad that I think grew before our eye. Their leadership abilities grew before our eyes this past season, and the Fred Warners and the George Kittles and even the Trent Williams. We got to see some of Trent Williams' leadership abilities that I didn't think he was a leader like that. Like honestly, but the things that he did with Laken Tomlinson and that offensive line and some of the speeches that he gave those guys, it was inspiring. I was ready to go out there and play, and I'm almost and I'm only 230 pounds. So, but I'm ready to run through a wall for that guy. Like after what I heard, and so just keep in mind that it's a long off season, and we always freak out when these first signings happen, and it always ends up that the 49ers have a pretty good front office. They have a pretty good they just have a pretty good staff. They have a pretty good coaching staff, and just because we don't necessarily have the guys that you think are going to be good, doesn't mean that they're not going to be. They could show you way more than you think. So, and that goes for the Aaron Banks. Aaron Banks is already being considered a bust. And right, and I think they brought him. They said they were bringing him in for right guard, but it may be almost be a blessing in disguise that they don't keep Laken, because then maybe they move Aaron to his natural spot that he played in college and at left guard. I think that might be big for him. They also asked him to lose weight, so because he was looking way skinnier on the sideline by the end of the season, and I think they were asking him to lose weight so maybe he can move a little bit better. We'll see if it works out. We also have Javon Kinlaw, who will be coming back from an injury, hopefully, and just to think about him and Armstead next to each other, I think if Kinlaw can stay healthy, they may not need DJ. I mean, he would have been a nice rotational piece, but I think that Kinlaw hasn't had a chance to show everybody what he can do and what he's capable of. The guy was a first-round pick. He has a supreme amount of talent. And I think another offseason with Chris Kasurik teaching him Chris Kasurik things, it's gonna be. I think it can only do well for Javon, and I think this guy sky's the limit for his frame and for his athletic ability. So just Husa. But another thing I want to talk about is Jimmy, and where is Jimmy going? Where do we all think Jimmy's going? And there's quite a few rumblings throughout the Twitter sphere and on ESPN, but the main four there's main three that I'm hearing about, but there's also one that I don't think I haven't heard anybody say, but I think that it could be a possibility is so the first one's Pittsburgh. So Pittsburgh, I think, is a good fit for Jimmy. He falls in line with the whole Pittsburgh. We're tough guys, and he plays through injuries. Jimmy's thought of as a tough guy and a guy that plays with heart and all that kind of stuff. He also has supremely talented weapons on that team, and they have a great running back in Najee Harris. They have really good receivers. They have a good tight end. Their offensive line is kind of iffy, but they have another offseason to shore that up. I just think that that might be a good spot for Jimmy. It would be in the AFC, so he'd be out of the NFC. Not that I think the 49ers care if he's in the NFC, as long as he's not going to the NFC West. I don't think the 49ers care that he'd be in the NFC. It's really about getting his contract off the books and I don't think that they're afraid of Jimmy and what Jimmy could do to them. So, uh, but Pittsburgh, I just think with the defense that they have, I think that Jimmy could be a good fit for them if they come up with a move some stuff around and have and like kind of focus on their wide receiver and on their weapons and not so much on the quarterback position. Uh, because that's what's going to have to happen for any of these teams that take Jimmy. They're going to have to do what the 49ers did, which is focus on the weapons, focus on those wide receivers and what those wide receivers and those running backs and those tight ends can do outside of what Jimmy can do, if that makes any sense. So, but Pittsburgh, I think, is a very good landing spot for him. And I think that's the main one that everybody kind of assumed that, well, was even with what Najee Harris said. And I think another one of their players mentioned Jimmy. I think that they're a front runner in my mind. But also, Washington was mentioned. And I think that there's some smoke there, but I don't necessarily know that that's a fit for Jimmy. I think that they have some weapons. I think that they have some weapons there. They have some good running backs, but their offensive line is terrible. Their offensive line is terrible. Their defense regressed last season, and it would surprise me, even though the coach came out and said he'd like to have a veteran quarterback. I just don't. I don't know if Jimmy's a good fit for that team specifically, because the guys that they have, I think they have one wide receiver that's really good after the catch. The rest of them are kind of, they have some weapons, but I don't know like it's enough to warrant putting Jimmy in that position. But then you've got the Eagles, so I don't know where the Eagles came from. I think that the Eagles, and I put in my notes question marks all around the Eagles, because they've got Jalen Hurts, and I don't know about anybody else. I don't think Jalen Hurts is bad. I don't think that they've supported him correctly. I don't think that they've focused on the run game like they should have. Yeah, all through that season, I think they were just playing. He was playing a lot of hero ball, and I just I just don't think. I think that it's the coaching staff more than it's Jalen Hurts. I just don't agree with that coaching staff. I didn't agree. Like when we played them early in the season, I just thought that I didn't see them as a well coached team. That's what I didn't see a lot of scheming plays up for to get guys open. So I don't know. I don't see the Eagles as a fit because I think they have a quarterback. I think they're going to stick with Jalen Hurts. I would be shocked if they trade for Jimmy and give up a second or a third for Jimmy. And that's a whole nother conversation. But my last one, the one that I think is an interesting fit, and I don't hear anybody else mentioning it, but I think it's an interesting fit because they don't have this team doesn't have a quarterback right now. Like, I mean, in my mind, a starting level quarterback. And as much as we as 49er fans kind of question all the things that Jimmy does, I still feel he's a starting level quarterback. But he's a kind of lower tier starting level quarterback. But that team is Denver. And the reason why I say Denver, they have weapons. They have weapons. They're not going to have to trade to get Jimmy because the 49ers don't need weapons. The 49ers want picks in my mind. The only position that I could see the 49ers trading Jimmy for Denver, and they would still want to pick other than this, would be one of those safeties. There's a specific safety that I'm thinking of that's a rookie that I wanted the 49ers to draft, and I can't think of his name right now, so don't that's my bad as a content creator. But they have some safeties over there and some secondary guys in general that I think that would fit right in with what the 49ers do. So whether it be the compensation could be one of them and like a third or fourth round or even a fifth round pick. I'd take one of them in a fifth for because 49ers do magic. The front office does magical things with fifth round picks. And but watch out. I think Denver is a sneaky spot because they have weapons, they have running backs, and they also have a defense. And that's what Jimmy needs. He needs everything to be around him. And you can easily kind of scheme around, not, and I shouldn't say easily because we were frustrated as 49er fans, we were frustrated all season with Jimmy's decision making. But I think with a little freedom off of and letting Jimmy just cook, I still feel that Kyle was a little too strict with Jimmy as to where to always as to tell him where the ball is supposed to go on any given play. And I think that kind of hindered a guy like Jimmy because Jimmy just wants to hit the open guy. And the more you make him think, the more it's gonna hurt him. So I think that a new situation might actually do some real good for Jimmy Garoppolo. And I think that you might see a completely different quarterback, not completely different because Jimmy is Jimmy, but a different. You might see a different quarterback than what we've seen in the last few years out of Jimmy Garoppolo. So, but yeah, Denver I think is a really sneaky spot it's a real possibility in my mind. So the next thing I want to talk about is the free agent possibilities for the 49ers. And the more I was looking at, and I really didn't even get through all of them, there's so many. There's so many that have potential for the 49ers. And I think that a lot of the team, like you notice that the 49ers have a whole bunch of free agents this season. Guess what? So do a lot of other teams. There's a lot of players out there that are looking for new homes, would love to be a part of the 49er culture. I think there's a lot of players out there that would love to be a part of the 49er culture. And so I just think that they're going to have a lot of options, and the salary cap isn't really going up this season. So it won't be till next season that guys are going to really be asking for big paydays. I don't think that there's going to be a ton of big paydays in this free agency period, and I think that you're going to see a lot more one-year deals. That's my personal opinion on it. I could be wrong. But I think that you're going to see a lot more one-year deals this season, gearing up for next season because people they're going to want their big payday when that salary cap goes up. So, but the first guy I want to talk about is Dante Fowler. I think that this is a guy that they could get on the cheap. And when I say cheap, I'm talking like anywhere between 4 to 6 million a year area. And if you don't recognize his name, he used to play for the Rams. He played for the Falcons last season, and there's a reason why we didn't hear about him at all once he went to the Falcons. He played for the Falcons the last two seasons. He went and got paid for the Falcons after playing next to Aaron Donald and building his name up because before he got to the Rams, he was a bust. So then he goes to the Rams, and he's as an edge, he's really good. He's exactly what Floyd ended up being for the Rams, but when you're playing next to Aaron Donald, those numbers get a little bit inflated when you don't have to worry about getting double teamed. And then he goes to Atlanta, and they're a bad team, so he doesn't do nearly. I don't even think anybody remembered him. So, but this is another guy that has talent. Chris Kasurek has shown over and over again that he can do more with less, and he can coach these guys up to do what they do in this scheme and maximize their talent. So I think that Dante Fowler could be a sneaky good signing because I think they're going to need some depth. I think that either Arden Key or who's the other one? Arden Key or well, Ebicom's with us, but Arden Key may not be back. A man who I'm pretty positive is going to be back. Like, but Jordan Willis may not return. So, and I think that getting Dante Fowler for instead of one of those guys would be an upgrade. I think it would be an upgrade because I think he has a little bit more physical talent than those guys. So, look for Dante Fowler. Another guy that I was kind of looking at sticking to the defensive line. Sheldon Richardson is a free agent this season for coming off from the Browns. They might be able, and he's an older player, but I think that one thing about the Niners that they do not do, and I wish they did more, is bring just a couple of veteran players in that want to get that ring. I mean, you might call them ring chasers, whatever the case is, but this is something that I think can galvanize the troop and can get them off to a good start right away instead of them having to build up their momentum. I think Sheldon Richardson would be a good player to bring in. I think they could get him for that 3 to 4 million range, and he would be another depth piece that we're talking about if we lose DJ Jones, that would be a nice little depth piece coming off the bench because I think they would plan to have Kinlaw start but then you put Sheldon Richardson in there, who's great against the run, which is what DJ Jones was great against the run, and he also gives you some pass rush ability. What does DJ Jones do? He gives you some pass rush ability. So I think he's a good one. And another guy that nobody's going to know this guy's name. Nobody's going to know this guy's name, but look out for this guy. I think this guy might be a sneaky signing for someone, especially if he comes to the 49ers. Like it would be Tim Settle from the newly christened Washington Commanders. This is a guy, another defensive tackle that could be. He's solid against the run. He's more of a passer. He's one of those guys that he's a sneaky good pass rusher. He's not really overly athletic. He just ends up in the backfield. And this is another guy they could get for 4 to 5 million a year. And these are guys that they could get on the cheap, that they can build their team, that they can fill in those spots. And these are veteran guys that can come in and be acclimated right away because they're professionals. So all these guys I'm bringing up are guys that I feel could fit right into the culture that the 49ers have already put in place. But I'm going to move on to the offensive line, and I really think that a real hole, especially if they lose Laken Tomlinson, is at the guard spot. They already have a hole there, in my mind, because I don't believe that Daniel Brunskill is as good as a backup as he is. I don't believe that he is a starting level guard in this league. He started all last season, but and by all accounts, he got some good PFF grades, but I don't. That's not the way I look at it. And what I see is a guy that would get overpowered at times, misses some assignments, and not that I expect guys to be perfect, but I just don't see Brunskill. I think you can upgrade that position, and you can do it. You can solidify the position with one of these guys that I'm just going to tell you about right now. One of them is Connor Williams coming off of the Cowboys. I think he can be had for 6 to 7 mil, maybe 8. I think that's a guy that we could sign him for a 3-year deal and solidify that. He doesn't really get hurt that often, and I really think that that's a guy that could solidify that right guard spot. Now we would still, or we could just move him over to the left guard and then either draft a guy for the right guard spot. Hopefully Alex Mack stays for one more season. But even if he doesn't, there's some other guys. There's some other centers out there, some veteran centers that could fill that spot that are used to zone schemes, and I think that could fill that in that void. So, but I think Connor Williams would be a really good pickup. Andrew Norwell from the Jags. Now you say that you hear the Jags, and he did have some penalty issues, but I think that that's coaching. I really feel like that's coaching, and that but he's a solid pass protector. Needs some work in the run game, but I really feel but he's another guy used to zone, and I just think that he can also be had for probably about 7 million, 6 to 7 million. Another guy that in a pinch could be your serviceable starter for a couple of years. And these are guys, and remember, they're like when we got Lakin Tomlinson, he was considered a uh like kind of a castaway almost. Like he's not we shouldn't be thinking of Lakin as, a world beater. Like we got him as a world beater. He wasn't a world beater in the beginning. He was constantly getting penalties when he first got to the 49ers. And he grew into a steady offensive line. I think that that's a possibility with one of these guys. Andrew Norwell being one of those guys. And the last guy I'm going to talk about is Morgan Moses off the Jets, just coming from Robert Saleh, and he has he played pretty well. He was one of the few people that actually played pretty well on that offensive line. Another guy that could be had probably for 6 to 7 million. He could be one of the. He's an athletic guy that could be a part of your line for at least the next 2 to 3 seasons. You could lock him up for 6 to 7 mil a season. So that there's a lot of options, and there was way more than this. I just named these three piqued my interest the most. But the next thing I wanted to move on to was the safety position. I expect them to draft a safety personally, but if they don't draft a safety, Jaron Curse from the Cowboys, he's sneaky good in coverage. He's a big guy. Well, who does that remind you of? It reminds you of Jaquiski Tart. Like they're not going to keep Jaquiski Tart, I don't think, unless he comes for cheap. And I don't think that he is. But I think Jaron Curse could be. We could get him for 5 mil, 5 to 6 mil, at least for one season, and because he wasn't on the field the whole time for the Cowboys because they did a safety by committee thing, but he's a big guy, could help out in the run game. He can tackle, and he's pretty decent in coverage. They actually used him to cover tight ends on the Cowboys, so that is entirely a guy. And I believe he played pretty well against us in the divisional round. So Jaron Curse, I think he's if they don't draft a guy, if they don't have a plan, if they don't sign a guy like Jaron Curse, or like I said before, trade maybe when they trade Jimmy or trade Greenlaw or trade one of the other guys for a starting safety, look in the draft. But if that doesn't happen, I think that this could be an option. So then the other guy in the secondary that I'm kind of looking at for is Rasul Douglas off the Packers, at corner, and he was solid. He was solid. I think that this guy would be a good depth piece for the 49ers because I believe that Ambry Thomas is going to start next season. I believe he's going to start. I believe that Emmanuel Mosley is going to start next season. I think they're actually going to be the 49ers are going to be better for it that they have two bona fide starters. I think that Jason Verrett is that I think that they're going to bring him back for on the cheap. But if he gets hurt, they still got Deommodore Lenoir, who was drafted to be in the slot. So I expect him to be better. And I think that the 49ers are actually set up better this offseason, than most of the seasons I remember at corner in the recent past. So I think that Rasul Douglas could be a good depth piece, so that you're not counting on signing a veteran like Norman, like Josh Norman, and because that's really what we don't want. We don't want to be forced to sign some guy like Josh Norman. And I think Rasul Douglas, you could get him for about 6.5. I think you could get him for 6 to 7 million. and for a 1 year deal. And you might be saying, oh, all these 7 million guys add up. They're going to restructure some people's deals. Okay, just they've still got to pay. They're not going to sign. I don't plan on signing all these guys. These are going to be like a guy here, a guy there, and these might be good veteran pieces that you bring in to the 49er culture. And these could eventually be starters for you. Who knows? But I think Rasul Douglas would be a pretty nice depth piece for the 49ers. And then my last but not least, backup quarterback spot. I don't plan on them wasting a draft pick on a backup quarterback. Not this season. After they after they see Trey and see that he's solid, I think that in like a couple of years, I could see them going ahead and drafting his backup. But for right now, I'm looking at Mitch Trubisky. And I said this last season. I thought that he would be a good pickup for the 49ers because Trey and him kind of had similar skill sets as far as they're both mobile. They're both they're both mobile. And like I thought that because they're both mobile, and Trubisky isn't really that accurate, but I thought that last season when he was on the Bills last season, and when he got away from the Bears and Nagy, who is just an abysmal coach. I don't know why anybody would hire him. Like once he got away from him, he got a chance to show on the Bills what he was capable in the preseason, and he had a pretty good showing in the preseason. And when he got his shot, even when he got his shot with the ones, so I think that this kid, he at the very least he could come in and spell Trey for a game or two if Trey got hurt for whatever reason. And I don't think Kyle would have to reinvent the wheel around Mitch Trubisky. I think that Mitch could step right in, and you could almost draw it up the same way. So I think Mitch Trubisky would be a really good backup for. And there's a couple of guys. Everybody is kind of set on Tyrod Taylor. I don't have a problem with Tyrod Taylor, but I think they could get Mitch Trubisky for cheaper, because I think he's only going to cost like $7 million, like 6, 7, 8 mil at the most. And I think that's going to be cheaper than Tyrod Taylor. I think Tyrod Taylor is going to want like probably 10 to 12. So I think that they could save some money by bringing in Mitch Trubisky. If you're down to this is the thing, Tyrod Taylor is not going to win you a Super Bowl. He's not going to win you games in the playoffs. So if you're going to sit there and get upset because I said Mitch Trubisky instead of Tyrod Taylor, just don't. You gotta understand that if we get to our backup quarterback, the odds of us doing anything is slim to none if Trey is out for the season. So they're just there to spell for like 1 or 2 games, maybe 3. So with that thought process in mind, that's what I'm thinking as far as Mitch Trubisky. But those are kind of my top free agent possibilities right now. Those are the guys I'm thinking of, and I'm sure there's going to be some more guys that kind of present themselves as guys get released and guys get traded around, and we start to see the combine and we start to get a clearer version of what the draft is going to look like. I didn't really want to talk too much about the draft on this episode just because without the combine and without having a more kind of solidified pecking order, there's really no point because we'll be talking about it again after the combine. And so I want to get a clearer idea of where these guys are going to go. I'm going to really be kind of doing mock drafts for the whole NFC West with my buddy Nate on the Odd Couple podcast. And it's going to be, but this whole offseason, we've got so many storylines, so many what ifs, and you got your Kyler Murray doing I don't know what his issue is as far as like why he's ruffling feathers over in his organization. I mean, of course you can be frustrated with your situation, but you're a leader. You need to be a leader of your organization. Like and it doesn't matter if you get along with your coach or not. You've got to be a professional. Period. Period. It has to happen. If you think the culture is going to change without you being a leader, you're wrong. You're wrong, and it doesn't matter what happens. You're not. Your teammates are going to see that you're not a leader. So I don't agree with what Kyler Murray's doing and what he allowed to happen, even if it what didn't mean anything by him scrubbing his IG. Doing those kind of things that you know are going to get people riled up is just a bad idea. It's a bad idea. So, and then what's going to happen with Russell Wilson? I mean, shout to Stats from Niner Nation, like getting the interview with him. But I mean, he didn't say that he didn't want to leave. So what is that going to look like? If I honestly, I think if he leaves Seattle, if Russell Wilson leaves Seattle, I think that we are going to they are going to go right back into the depths that they were before he got there, and I don't think it's going to be pretty. I think that if that happens, also, I expect Pete Carroll to retire within the next year or two. So I expect that to happen anyway. And then lastly, the Rams, who just won the Super Bowl, they got their own issues with McVay supposedly getting money thrown at him from TV. Are the Rams going to back up the Brinks truck and just throw as much money as they have to at this guy to keep him on, or do they let him walk? I don't know. And then is Aaron Donald going to retire? I don't know. And if Aaron Donald does retire, what does that do to? Because he was the heart and soul of that team. Matt Stafford he's a solid quarterback with a superior arm, and it's he is not a lead. I don't feel like he was the leader of that team, even though he's got the little captain patch. I don't feel like he was the leader of that team. Aaron Donald is the heart and soul of that team, and he leaves a gaping hole not just in the defensive line, but on that team and the leadership on that team. So it's just going to be a lot of storylines that we're going to have to talk about all off season, and I'm here for it. I know you guys are going to be here for it. I can't wait to talk about it, and I plan on this season having some guests, and all this off season I'm going to be bringing in some guests. I keep saying that I'm going to do it, but the reality is I'm already in the talks with a couple of people to come on for an episode or two. I kind of want to rotate it around, and that's my thought process on it. I want to get a bunch of you guys in just to shoot the let's make my podcast spaces for everyone. Give it to everybody a chance to get their takes out there. So with that being said, I really appreciate it, guys. Really appreciate all your I got to 400 I have 400 followers today on Twitter. I really appreciate all the love that I've gotten from everybody. I got into a couple of spaces, and amazingly enough, people actually knew who I was. It feels great, honestly, and and I love doing this. I love talking 49ers, and I love all the things that I'm doing with Nate over on Odd Couple Podcast. I think you're going to see us for a very long time, regardless of what happens. So get used to it. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next Wednesday, 6:30. Go Niners.